What's good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down some big news that just came out involving the markets and talk about something huge that's coming out very soon and how the market could move going forward. But before I break anything down, all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. This offer ends in just 2 weeks, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. The market had a very, very monstrous rally for today after Jerome Powell's remarks from yesterday and what the Fed ended up doing. And as I mentioned to everyone, there's going to likely be some more upside coming. Now, with the market pumping, it went pretty crazy today. We saw SPY continue to pump from open, and we're currently at 430. It's pretty crazy considering that about 5 trading days ago we were at 409. Now we're at 430. And the question is, will the market continue to pump from here, or is something about to change that, at least temporarily? And my answer to that is going to depend on Apple's earnings. Now, honestly, guys, I am bullish for the end of the year. I believe that there's more upside coming. As you can see, SPY's pumped so hard, but at the same time, SPY is overbought right now. If you look at the 30 minutes time frame, if you look at the bigger time frames as well, you can see that there are many indicators suggesting we're very overbought and SPY might see some downside because of it. But there's no guarantee just yet because we're moving based off news and something else is going to be a big catalyst from this point on. So, what's that catalyst going to be? After the market closes for today, we have Apple's earnings. And whatever Apple reports is going to have a big effect on the whole market. If Apple ends up missing on earnings, which I don't really, lean towards, I would say that's going to be a very, very big, impactful factor. Not to mention their guidance. So, Apple's guidance is going to be very important too. If there's something that's amiss, if guidance is not too strong, this could cause the market to reverse and actually pull back a bit. If Apple does very, very well and this thing just continues to pump, this could pump SPY even higher tomorrow. So we don't know what's going to happen, honestly, guys. And I personally am not holding any options overnight for Apple's earnings. If you want to hold, if you want to buy Apple calls or something, that's up to you. I just want to let you guys know that it is risky. It is going to be, something that puts you in a tough position. You never know what's going to happen, and the market already pumped so much approaching the big events. So who knows what's going to happen? I'm very optimistic, however, regardless of which way Apple goes. I believe that the bigger factor has been the Fed, and that so far is helping the bulls more. And there's going to likely be more upside for the future, anyways. So we're going to wait and see if Apple causes the market to sink or if Apple's going to help the market push higher. So far, tech earnings have been quite decent, so there's a good chance Apple's going to do well, and I'm really optimistic for this report. Now, when it comes to data affecting the markets for tomorrow, before the market ends up opening, we have the unemployment rate coming out 1 hour before open. And then we also have governmental payrolls, manufacturing data, and then the PMI reports later on. But the biggest piece of data for tomorrow is going to be the unemployment rate. It's coming out an hour before open. So if you want to hold through the unemployment data and Apple's earnings, that is your choice. If you don't want to hold overnight through all this stuff, that's also your choice too. I just wanted to warn you about that. So how are things looking? I just wanted to call out that when you look at SPY and you switch over to the daily time frame, you're going to notice that we're currently testing the 50 EMA as resistance. And if we break this, 431 technically is possible. We also have 432.5 as another target. But as of right now, it's very risky to be going long right here. I mean, we're already up so much and the market is very, very overbought. So I would be very careful. And if we do retrace a bit as time goes on, that's also a possibility. It could just be a very minor retracement, but just be very careful because, the bigger move is going to be made overnight depending on what happens to Apple. So when it comes to levels on SPY, we're currently testing our 50 EMA on the daily time frame. That's just over 430. If we break above it, you're going to be watching 431 as the next level. This also corresponds with this previous support trend line, this green trend line right here. This was our previous support historically. That's going to act as resistance to around 431. If we break it, there's going to be some room for us to go all the way up to 432.5 as the next key resistance. So it all depends on if we can get there. The market does not have way too much steam left, in my opinion, to just pump that hard all the way up to like the mid 430s or even 432. I think that it's pumped so much and it should be taking a breather soon, but everything could change tomorrow. Tomorrow, Apple could help give it more steam, so we'll just have to wait and see. If we pull back thanks to Apple, right, we're going to be watching 430 as support. If we lose this, watch 429.5. If that fails us, there is potential for it to come all the way down towards 427.5 and 426.5. But as of right now, I'm not leaning in any direction. I'm not going to make any predictions about whether or not we're going to get a small drop for tomorrow or not. For now, it's just a matter of let's see how Apple does, and we'll see how the market continues. Now, regardless of what happens with Apple's earnings, I still believe that there's more upside coming to the markets for the end of the year. From a historical basis, what tends to happen is for the first week of November, we pump very nicely. There could be some sideways price action, even a small dip coming before the market continues higher, but it doesn't have to be that significant. It could be like a 5-10 points dip for the markets. I could drop a little bit before we continue much higher, or it could just be a very minor kind of like sideways phase for a week before this thing continues even higher. Either way, whether there's a small little pullback that comes before the market goes higher, or if the market just trades sideways and then it just goes higher, regardless of this seasonality trend that is still affecting this market right now, upside is still imminent. There's likely going to be more upside for the end of the year. I'm still favoring the bulls, and I think that there's more to come as time goes on. Now, to add on to this, don't forget that this cycle relates not just to the S&P 500, but other sectors in the market which are being impacted. And also, it's a presidential election year. We're at the last year before the election, so with this happening, this still relates to that as well, and that's going to be very important. Now, for Tesla, I just wanted to call out Tesla. Tesla's doing very well. It's continuing to pump very nicely, and we're currently at this 218 area, getting very close to our resistance at 220. We're going to be watching these levels very, very carefully as Tesla is gaining more and more strength. Now, looking at Tesla, as we're approaching this 220 area, I'd be very careful here because we have some tight resistance. We've seen Tesla get rejected off 220 in the past, so I don't expect it to just blast through this very easily unless we get a very good catalyst. If Apple pumps the markets overnight, we could see Tesla break 220 and finally make its way up to 225 plus. If we get a rejection, if Apple ends up causing the market to pull back a little bit, we could see Tesla retrace towards 212. That's another possibility because that's where we have some key support now. But regardless of what happens, guys, regardless of if Tesla drops or not, we have a possible inverse head and shoulder structure developing here that could develop if we do get some kind of like small pullback, or uh, if we do pull back a bit, like I'm trying to say, the ultimate outcome is going to be upside. If we pull back a bit, it's eventually going to bounce and continue higher. If we don't pull back, Tesla's just going to continue to squeeze. And we have the big gap that's unfilled on Tesla. Let me just show you where the gap is. If you look at the daily on Tesla, you can see this giant gap that was left after earnings. We're going to fill this gap this year, in my opinion. I think Tesla has potential to do so. The daily is turning more bullish. You can see the MACD is curling very nicely. And the weekly, if you look at the weekly, it is so far looking bullish for Tesla. So we're getting some bullish signals on Tesla. There's a good chance of Tesla bouncing, and it's looking a lot better than before. Now for Apple, I just wanted to call out that Apple is pumping very nicely right here. Apple is continuing to push up. It's gaining more and more strength, but I would be very careful with Apple because it's pumping right before earnings, and it's not always the best of signs. Sometimes stocks pump if they're about to sink. Sometimes they just keep going. You never know what's going to happen. So with Apple, we're going to be watching this resistance at 177.5 to 178. If we break that zone, I could see this thing going all the way up to 180. And if we break that, 182 is coming. If we break down, watch 176.5 as key support, followed by 175.5 and 175. In my honest opinion, earnings is just going to be everything. It could easily pump a lot more. Apple does tend to beat. We will see if there's any kind of like buyback or if Apple announces something about their future guidance. That's going to be super important. If they announce anything like positive, I mean, so we'll have to wait and see. Honestly, guys, I'm not going to hold anything overnight for Apple. It's your choice if you want to. So I just wanted to warn you about that. For Nvda, this is also starting to look very nice. Nvda continued to break. We got a nice breakouts today, but we're testing 435 as resistance. Still has a nice structure to it. So at this point, if we manage to break and hold 435, I could see this thing going up to 438 as key resistance. If we break down, watch 430 as key support. So for Nvidia, I just wanted to call out, it's going to depend a lot on Apple. If Apple pushes this thing higher, 438 plus is coming. If Apple causes a rug pull, we could see Nvidia retrace below 430 to retest 425. So we're going to be watching that carefully. I don't know what's going to happen. It depends on Apple's earnings. So we'll just have to wait and see. Last but not least, we have the QQQ, the triple Q. This is going to be very interesting. So the QQQ is getting dragged up thanks to Tesla and Aapl especially, and it's approaching this very key resistance. We have this resistance zone right here between 365 and 364. We've seen a lot of chop in that area, so we're going to be very careful if we do end up approaching it. Right now, we're trying to peak around 363.25. Historically, I didn't really see that zone being tested that much. This is just like inside of a giant chop area. So if we're bearish after Apple's earnings, we have supports at 362.25, 360, and 358. We also have a gap down here at 358. If we keep going, it could just be pushing for 366. I don't know which way it's going to go, guys. It depends on Apple's earnings, so we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be a big catalyst. All right, guys, this is your last warning. The market's going to close in about an hour and a half from the time I'm recording this. It is your choice to hold overnight. It is your choice if you want to sell your options, and do whatever you want when it comes to trading. It's up to you. Do whatever you want, guys. I'm just here to give you guys the warning, and I just want the best for everyone. All right, so take care, everyone. I'll see you guys in the next one. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and peace out.